Welcome back to High School Backups Podcast. This is episode 76. We've been doing this for a long time. I'm here host today. I'm Kyle along with Austin, Justin, and sexy man Steve down there in the corner. I don't know what the hell he's doing,
That was
but
my best light skin stare.
we have a great
Exactly.
episode for you guys today, going over lots of football. But before we get into NFL news, we have a couple other things to go over. First, in devastating fashion, the Women's World Cup is still going on, but unfortunately, the U.S. national team has been eliminated. This is their earliest they've ever been eliminated in the Women's World Cup history. What do you think, boys? What are our thoughts on this?
I've heard a lot about how, in terms of, because I started looking back at their games from their previous World Cup victory, and I definitely saw in this World Cup, probably a team that maybe, it can kind of happen. You're a very dominant team. The thing is, every year in any kind of sport, you're going to have a dominant team that is highly favorited, that is unfortunately just going to unravel it themselves. They're still a very talented team, but it can just happen. You can get in your own way. You look at the Ravens a couple years ago, they were like 14-2 and had had like top five offense and defense. And they just like unraveled because they just couldn't stop a running back. So it just kind of happens uh, that they just kind of got in their own way, and I think probably just got the yips. But they didn't look like the truly dominant team that they were at the last World Cup.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. It's really sad for us Americans over here. I have seen a lot of people going on saying how they're happy that the national team lost, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous, regardless of what political party you stand on, to willingly cheer for the team representing your country to lose. I think that is downright stupid, but I'm not going to get political because I'll just rant for hours if I do. So,
Yeah.
Is this now
other?
the politics podcast?
Stop it, Austin. You and I.
Guys, what's the election rig? We're going to talk about it.
Oh my
The
God.
first
Steven.
5-hour
Next week.
high school
Oh
backups
my God.
podcast.
Oh my God. But
The last
anyway.
episode.
Oh Lord, Jesus, Steven. Moving on to other sports. Ramber
Please,
Valdez.
gotta go. Allegedly.
Oh, guys. Okay, all right. Anyway, before we get
I'd like to run
controversy.
again.
Before we
banned,
get
you mean?
canceled, holy shit! All right, Ramber Valdez pitches a no-hitter last week. I think it happened Tuesday night after we ended the show too. The Ramber Valdez pitches a no-hitter. So, is that the second no-hitter and a perfect game this year, Austin? Or
It's the second no hitter and the if you count the perfect game as a no hitter, that's three. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, so a lot of I always love seeing no-hitters and perfect games in baseball. I always love a nice pitching outing. So
Unless you're the one who's getting it, then it
Yeah.
kind of rough.
then it kind of sucks, but I still like enjoy watching it because that's pretty impressive to do. So congrats to Valdez, even though, yeah, it was whatever. He's on the Astros, so it's like, yeah, but whatever. Anyway, in hockey news, the San Jose Sharks traded Eric Carlson to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and yeah, I don't know why either team decided to make this move. It's weird, but you know what? It happened. So there's that. Did you guys I switched sports too soon, but did you guys see what happened with the Baltimore Orioles announcer?
No, what happened?
So this Baltimore Orioles announcer was on air, and he basically all he said was the Orioles have a losing record at the Rays Stadium for the past like 6 years or whatever, like whatever the time frame was, they have a losing record. And the owner of the Orioles deems that was inappropriate and unprofessional, so he is indefinitely suspended from the team at the moment. Yeah, listen to. I shared the
Really funny.
clip in our podcast in our group chat, Steve. So if you have time, take a listen, and you tell me how there's absolutely nothing wrong with what he said. If you can't find it for our viewers, look up Kevin Brown. He is the announcer for the Orioles that got indefinitely suspended. And our last bit of news before we get into our debatable topics, the NFL had its Football Hall of Fame induction this past weekend where we have 9 superstars getting their placards in Canton. We had Rondi Barber, Don Coriel, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, Darrell Revis. Whoa, Revis. My
Revis.
bad. My bad. Ken Riley, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, and DeMarcus Ware. Thoughts on the induction, boys?
Is it a bad thing I've not heard of any of those players?
Justin.
You not heard of Darrell Revis?
Oh,
He played for the Pats.
Darrell Revis. You haven't heard of DeMarcus Ware? Joe Thomas? Justin.
Really? Dude, all right.
I was expecting bigger names and like ones that may have just retired rather than like I didn't know they could be coming at any point.
All right, here's the thing about Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is arguably the best left tackle in NFL history. There's maybe one or two players that rival him. This man played, I want to say, even has a record for like most consecutive starts. He has played every season he's ever played, despite being one of the most intense seasons or intense positions in football. Next, go to DeMarcus Ware. This man was an absolute beast on the Cowboys and was part of the reason why Cam Newton couldn't do shit in Super Bowl 50. Like, even in his older age, this man could come back into the NFL and be as dominant of a defender as he could possibly be. And Revis had a season. Let me find the Revis Island season quickly before I continue my points.
Yeah, a few of them.
Well, good job to all of them either way, even though I didn't.
Even though you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
When did you start watching the Pats?
2008-ish, but I was only paying attention. Like, the players that really come to mind are, like, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and I was only really into the defense of the Patriots because of, like, Hightower, Onitchewicz, or something like.
So, actually, Revis was a Patriot for a year. He actually won a Super Bowl with us.
Yeah, I heard that when Kyle was saying it.
Yeah, the Malcolm Butler season. So this is in 2009, all right? And all these guys were top 10 wide receivers that season at that time in 2009. So here's the list of names. Andre Johnson, Randy Moss twice, Marquise Colston, Tyrell Owens twice, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, Reggie Wayne, and Chad Ochocinco. These were the top classes of their time. All of them were held to under 35 receiving yards.
Yeah, he is one of the best.
101.
There's a reason why he's a Hall of Famer now. Even when he was playing, everyone talked about how he would be a future Hall of Famer. Now he can officially say it, which is insane because it's so crazy seeing players that we all grew up watching actually now getting inducted. That's just that's so crazy to me. There are a few semifinalists that weren't actually inducted to the Hall of Fame that I'm excited to maybe get inducted to the Hall of Fame in future years. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the semifinalists, see if some names pique your interest. So Eric Allen, Jarrett Allen, Willie Anderson, Rondi Barber, Anquan Bolden, Henry Ellard, Jaree Evans, London Fletcher, Dwight Freeney, James Harrison, Rodney Harrison, Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Albert Lewis, Robert Mathis, Steve Smith Sr., Fred Taylor, Hines Ward, DeMarcus Ware, Ricky Waters, Reggie Wayne, Vince Wilfork, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson are all semifinalists, plus obviously the finalists that were eventually inducted.
Reggie Wayne isn't in the Hall of Fame yet?
No, he is not.
Oh my gosh. And Harrison Smith should definitely be considered for that list. Just for that insane 9-yard pick six and the all-time Steelers sack record holder, too.
I'm surprised Wilfork's not already in it, too.
Vince Wilfork, he's kind of debatable. I'm surprised he was a semifinalist, to be honest. But I would love Vince Wilfork to be eventually a Hall of Famer, though.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Steve Smith in there. It's really tough because there are some receivers in the Hall of Fame that definitely deserve it. Some, I'm not too sure. But, I mean, Steve said it would be kind of tough. There are definitely other players on the list who are definitely at a much higher position, but it really all depends. But
I
Steve
mean,
should,
Steve
I
Smith
would be,
probably should be because he's got 14,000 receiving yards.
yeah. I mean, I think probably give him another year. Devin Hessner, I don't think he's still one, right? Was that one of the names?
Like,
No, no, he wasn't. Sorry.
Okay, I don't know.
Steve Smith is, other than Reggie Wayne, is the only one in the top 10 in receiving yard that's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Yeah, so
he'll be in the Hall of Fame eventually.
yeah.
So he definitely should be. I feel like next year he should be, but everybody else. Oh, sorry. Larry Fitzgerald isn't. That's because he retired too late, but he obviously will be. So, but
He
everybody
should.
else that had the opportunity to be in it has been. I'm kind of surprised that what's his name, James Harrison isn't, but
James Harrison definitely deserves it. He's a Steelers
maybe
staple in there. He played like 19 seasons too. The man was insane.
maybe I'd have to go back and actually look at him because like I just remember him being so dominant that I'm wondering if maybe he didn't have as good of a career as I remember.
Well, what's crazy is because he was a captain so many times, and because of his age, he was actually cut by the Steelers quite a few times. But he kept up with his training regimen, and he's the Steelers' all-time sack leader. And that was like back in 2016. And he played with the Patriots for a little bit too. And he was great. He had like 2.5 sacks in his playoff run, something along those lines. It was really good against the Jaguars. Actually, people remember he was responsible for putting the pressure on Blake Bortles that stalled their last drives of the game after we got the lead back. But
yeah, it's I'm very excited to see where the future of the Hall of Fame induction goes. We're gonna definitely start seeing a lot of former players that we all grew up watching as young kids start getting inducted. So we're gonna start getting into the fields eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other news to go over before we get into our debatable topics today?
yeah,
Did
so
we talk
for
about
anybody
Mark?
who's interested-
I was gonna say.
you go.
Okay, I was gonna say, 'cause since I did show up last week a little bit late, did we talk about Marshawn being the new captain?
Marshawn.
Marshawn, thank you.
I was like, Marshawn Lynch is coming back.
No.
I was like, what?
He's the
Look at
captain.
it.
I'm the
Marshawn's,
captain now.
Marshawn's not officially been named anything yet, by the way.
Oh, I thought. Where did I see it? I thought I saw on like Facebook or Twitter like they already did it.
I've
But
been
No,
considered. Most likely.
dang.
I don't believe it is official yet. Let me just double check before I go out and say officially.
Wouldn't be the first time.
That you are not wrong.
Well, while Pat's looking it up, news out of Patriots camp.
No.
So our offensive line has been doing not great. It's injured right now because our top three offensive linemen are still recovering. But on the interesting side, our Keyshawn Booty and one of our undrafted receivers has been winning on one-on-one and 11v11 drills against our starting defense. And we have a very good secondary. So that's really good. Devontae Parker is seen to get separation against speedy guys like Marcus Allen or Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones. But we're starting to see our drafted receivers in the later round were high reward, really low risk because of their pick, and they're starting to show up a little bit, which is good. And Mac Jones apparently has been really good with the deep ball, which is awesome, considering we barely used it last year.
We knew he would be.
Yeah, and Gesicki and Henry are, being able to be good red zone targets. But the interesting story is, I love this player, but Kendrick Bourne has had an issue with drops. He had a couple drops a few practices ago, and today he had 3 consecutive drops. And now our rookie wide receivers are starting to show up a little bit. So there's expectation that depending on how the rest of training camp and the preseason goes, most likely there's a good chance that Kendrick Bourne might be traded. And what I would love is for us to find a team and get their wide receiver. Hell, I even would say, get a second-round pick and Kendrick Bourne and try to go for Godwin or Evans if you really wanted to. But
I don't think you should. If you were going to do that, Steve, go for someone a little bit younger.
The
Then
thing
Godwin.
is, it's the only one that would be tough would be Jerry Judy, but Sean Payton is very strict with this team. He does not want to send that guy away. So,
I could
They
see you
wanted a
going
lot
for
for
T
him.
Higgins. I could see you guys going for T Higgins anyway. His contract's up this year anyway, so.
Belichick's not going to want to pay him. So
No, but if you can do it, if you guys are in a position like late in the year where you guys have won, let's say already 6-7 games, you could and you could use him for a playoff push. I don't see why not, right?
Mhm.
But also to your point, Justin, no, Brad Marchand has not been named captain yet. We did talk about who we thought would be named captain, and Brad
Yeah.
Marchand was one of the names that we all considered. So
Yeah, I remember we brought it up, and I thought I saw something on Facebook saying that he was announced it, but it definitely could be the speculations.
yeah, no, not yet. But also speaking of camp, since Steve brought it up, according to a closed practice from Giants camp, that Jalen Hyatt beat Tyreek Hill's fastest speed record. So Giants may have found a steal there. I would love if Jalen Hyatt could become our number one wide receiver. That would be awesome. He's currently listed 4th on the depth chart, which I don't understand, but hey, it's just preseason, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I did see that, and that did pique my interest that he's supposedly faster than Tyreek Hill, which would be insane.
Yeah.
And also, there were a couple of Giants players who came out and said they want to play their entire career playing with Daniel Jones, which I think that is awesome, considering Daniel Jones had a rough couple years. So
I mean, confidence in your quarterback and kind of getting in the locker room is definitely really helpful for sure. I mean, you look at someone like Russell Wilson, where he kind of alienated himself with his own tweet and all that other BS last year with the Broncos.
Let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride. Well, guess what? He was not riding into the locker room liked at all. I'll tell you that because, I mean, you saw there's so many memes of it of Melvin Gordon staring him down, his offensive line not even helping him up later in the season. So Daniel Jones.
Sorry, keep going, Steve. Keep going.
Well, Daniel Jones getting support in the locker room is really good. So that might get you to 5 wins this season, which is going to be awesome.
To be honest, when we do our ranking, I do have a bold prediction for the Giants. I don't. So 5 wins, I think, is the very low end, Steve. But it could happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not giving them that much more, but like still more. I did out their schedule. Stop it. Any other things before we get into our first debatable topic today, boys? Nope, going once, going twice. All right. So moving on to Alvin Kamara, officially handed down a 3-game suspension from the NFL based upon his actions after the Pro Bowl in 2022. This has been going up in the air for the last 2 seasons now. We suspected he might get suspended last year. He ended up wasn't getting suspended. The NFL decided to let the court play out. The court finally came down with a decision this past summer. And then after a meeting with Goodell, a 3-game suspension was handed out to Kamara. So what do you think, boys? Is this going to be that detrimental to the Saints? Does it not really matter? The Saints going to suck anyway? What are we thinking?
I mean, they haven't really gotten a lot of production out of Alvin Kamara the last 2 seasons, realistically. So, I mean, they still have Chris Olave and they still have a very solid tight end, and maybe Michael Thomas will do something. But just
right.
get yourself a free agent running back. If your offensive line plays well, that's good enough. I mean, Kareem Hunt is a good option. He's like a diet version of Alvin Kamara. He can definitely run, but he's definitely a better pass catcher for sure. But he's a solid option when he's utilized. So, but I mean,
Sleeper did report earlier today that the Saints and Kareem Hunt did reach a deal, but then Adam Schefter a couple hours later quickly shut that down. So it seems like the Saints did give it thought for Kareem Hunt, but there's no official deal in place. So it is interesting.
I think he's fielding his options.
Which there should be a lot of teams knocking on Kareem Hunt's door, especially the team that he also apparently is having a meeting with, the Colts. interesting decision from the Colts.
Considering their shitbag of a owner.
Very idiotic because they have a top 10 running back already on their roster, but that's besides the point. Let's take.
No, don't you remember he has an injured back?
I did not injure my back, and whoever your sources are, get new ones. That's gonna go down as a top 10 football tweet of all time. I'm just saying, like that tweet that Jonathan Taylor did is amazing.
Yeah.
A football
Let's think a little outside the box here with Kareem Hunt. How does this affect fantasy owners who have Kareem Hunt, like myself, who's crying on the inside?
Draft better.
Even if he didn't have a suspension, I would avoid drafting him until maybe the 3rd or 4th round. Honestly, it's so much risk with him. I would never spend not even a 3rd, maybe not even a 4th round pick on Alvin Kamara. And this just makes it sadder because you have to wait 3 weeks now to see if your pick was worth it. How much money did you spend on Kyle in our league?
So I actually traded for
I was gonna
him.
say he traded.
I traded for Alvin Kamara because I didn't want Ramondre Stevenson at the time. I also Jake and I also moved around some picks in the trade as well. So at the time, it was looking like it wasn't that awful. The suspension doesn't bother me that much. It's more of the thing if they sign Kareem Hunt that really bothers me because even when Kamara comes back, Hunt would eat into a lot of his touches and opportunities, especially 3rd down and goal line, which is kind of annoying. So I really hope they don't sign Kareem Hunt. This is what I was trying to avoid with Ramondre Stevenson when the Patriots were rumored to get Dalvin Cook. That's why I traded him in the first place, and now I'm chasing that same situation. It's been a mess in Dynasty right now, but that's besides the point. If you're looking at
Like usual.
This is our first time. What do you mean like usual? Stop it. I won the league last year. Shut up. What are you talking about? Stop it.
It was lucky though.
It was not lucky. It was pure skill. I agree with you though,
I'm not
Steve.
lucky. That's my fucking team. I'll tell you that.
I do agree with you though, Steve. Drafting in the 4th round is even much of a stretch for Kamara. He's definitely gonna fall a lot.
Yeah.
5th round, 6th round, maybe. Because by the time you get there, you have like backups left, right? So we could get Alvin Kamara there, especially if Kareem Hunt doesn't sign. If Kareem Hunt doesn't sign, getting Alvin Kamara in the 6th or 7th round will be a steal.
I mean, here's the thing: if the Saints really want to, they want to make a splash. I mean, I don't know how much cap space they have, but if they really want to go for it, I think just say screw it. Sign Dalvin Cook and eventually trade Alvin Kamara after his suspension.
Well, Alvin Kamara already has Alvin Kamara is the 3rd highest paid running back, 2nd highest paid running back, something like that. So I don't know. That's a hard contract to move though. Even though if teams don't want to sign running backs for that much anyway, let alone trade for one who's suspended, injury prone, and is already that highly paid. So if they're going to want to get an Alvin Kamara for that price, they might as well just sign Dalvin Cook outright.
Yeah,
that's a hard thing to move, Steve. I like your thought process, but that's a hard move.
I think a desperate enough team, they would make it work. They would probably, honestly, they would even just take a loss and do like, all right, just give us a lower draft pick. If we have Dalvin Cook, just give us a lower draft pick. That's fine. If you want to take more of his salary, that's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. I'm sure the Saints are going to kind of play around with what they have, especially if they don't sign someone new. I don't think they need to because they still have Jamal Williams, who they just got from the Lions this past offseason. They also drafted that rookie whose name is escaping me, Kendry Miller. They also just drafted him. So, like, the Saints have options. They don't really need to sign anyone right now. They could wait the first 3 weeks anyway.
And Williams was a touchdown machine too, right?
Yeah, he was their star running back because DeAndre Swift was hurt for most of the year last year. So it was really interesting.
And now he's gone.
Exactly. So Detroit's going to be interesting move with running backs. But anyway, anything else to say about Alvin Kamara and the New Orleans Saints? Nothing? All right. We have so still on the football train. We had some big moves happen this past week when it came to NCAA football. The Big Ten and the Big 12 decided to completely destroy the Pac-12 and completely take the conference away from the face of the earth. For those of you who don't know, earlier this past year, UCLA and USC both agreed on a contract with Big Ten starting in 2024. So UCLA and University of Southern California would be moving over to the Big Ten. This past week, Oregon and Washington both agreed to also join the Big Ten in 2024. The Big 12 then swooped in and they took Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State also joining the Big 12. So a lot of conferences are expanding. There was also a rumor that was floated around yesterday that I think this is the dumbest of expansion. The ACC, which stands for the Atlantic Coast Conference, is floating around floating around ideas to have Cal and Stanford join their conference.
You think it
Cal,
really makes that much sense for the Big Ten to be adding West Coast teams?
no, but I think it makes a little bit more sense than the ACC to add two mediocre teams. At least the Big Ten added 4 superpowers at the conference. When it comes to college football, I'm actually kind of a fan of all of these realignments. I just want, as a fan, it's going to be enjoyable to watch Ohio State play Oregon. Like that matchup's going to be fun to watch. Ohio State versus UCLA, USC versus Michigan. Like those kind of matchups are going to be a lot of fun to watch.
So,
yeah. What? Go ahead, boys.
What are you gonna say, dude?
I was gonna say, like, so even though they're adding more teams, a Big 10 does not come like a Big 14, it sounds like.
It's actually going to be a Big 16.
And they're not going to change the name, I don't think, or will they?
No.
They might. They probably won't, though.
None of the conferences have been the actual numbers they've been in a long time. Big 12 is bigger than Big 12. Big 10 is bigger than Big 10. Yeah. But that's the only two actually that have a number.
I will
the Pac-12.
Oh yeah, Pac-12, right?
The Pac-12 is 4.
Well, Pac-12 doesn't even exist anymore, so.
Well, technically, this is the last year of it. The conference does still exist this year, and they could still obviously expand and take more teams into it. But as of right now, if the 4 teams left in the Pac-12 stay, it would be just 4 teams. So, what were you gonna say, Steve?
I'm gonna say, from here's the thing too. When they're spreading their conference out like that across all the way to the West Coast, you know what that means though? That means they're gonna have opportunity to air more games because it's going to be spread out in like 3 or 4 different time zones. So,
Bingo.
Or 3 different time zones.
Bingo.
So, now, college basketball or college football just looks and said, oh, this is great because now we get to have 3 games on at once, not have so many games competing with each other, and it's going to be all more competitive or bigger names. So now you have a higher volume of games that are going to be broadcasted that are going to be much more interesting because you're spreading out all these dominant teams and throwing in some shit bags because you just want to see them play. So, good for the networks. This is great for them. Jet lag, who knows? It was only 3 hours. It's not terrible, but travel is still pretty brutal, especially in college when it's not as set or organized. Like NFL teams, when they travel and stuff, they have all of the highways and local roads are blocked off so they can just get the hell out of there. It's not as easy for college football, especially some of the smaller teams. But from a network standpoint, who just want money and viewership, yeah, this is great for them. Are you kidding me? This is great.
I will say, like, as a fan perspective, this is going to be super fun to witness. Like, I love this realignment, but as someone who also feels for the student athlete portion of this is going to be brutal. Like someone who will have to travel cross country now and then still manage to stay on top of their grades as an athlete. That is still an important part of what you're doing in college. Like not all student athletes are going to be professionals because like this realignment, although it does pertain for this conversation to be about the football aspect, this realignment also applies to every other sport that the school plays. Like this realignment, this realignment will affect basketball, baseball, lacrosse, hockey, soccer. Like this realignment will affect all of the sports. So like especially for like a sport that doesn't play just once a week, like basketball or baseball. They play multiple times a week. If you're traveling now from California to New Jersey, back to Washington, back to Illinois, for example, all within the span of a week, because if those are all Big Ten games, that's going to be a lot of trouble on the athlete.
Right.
That's gonna that much travel, that much jet lag. It's gonna be a lot more injuries, a lot more like sleep deprivation. So like this is going to affect the actual athlete aspect. Yes, I'm excited to watch this like as a pure fan of the sport, but I'm also feeling for these kids because we have to keep in mind they're 18, 19, 20 years old doing this too. This is obviously a pure money grab for the sake of the conferences and the schools. That's all they care about because as you said, Steve, they're going to be a lot. They're going to be spread out now across the Big Ten, for example, is spread out across all 5 major time zones in the U.S. They're spread across the East, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. So 4. Sorry, my bad. Four main time zones in the U.S. That's insane for viewership, right? And the Big 12 is not far behind. Big 12, actually, I think the Big 12 is too because they technically have West Virginia. West Virginia is on the East too. So they have West Virginia. So Big 12's also there. So like SEC's getting there. Like they obviously don't have anyone on the West Coast yet, but they cover East Coast and Central Zone right now. So like it's getting there to the point where that's what the conferences are looking at. So like I was talking to this with my boss about how like eventually NCAA is just not going to be able to manage this kind of realignment. It's eventually just going to be the conferences themselves managing it. And I think that might be for the best, but it's also not going to be for the best. Like that's going to be pretty shitty to think about. Like if the conferences are now just fighting for schools, like are schools just going to be like poker chips essentially? It's just like I want this one.
The thing is this isn't doing anything, right? Like the reason all these schools are doing it is because the SEC was taking in teams because the whole reason this is happening is because nobody is being able to get into the playoff, right? And it's all about the playoff now, right? The bowl games don't really matter that much anymore, like not as much as they used to. When it was still just like one team or 2 teams, battling out each year when they used to just have that last game for the number 1 team for the championship. But now with all that happening, I mean, and the SEC taking in, was it Oklahoma? Not Oklahoma, Texas and
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oh no, it was Oklahoma. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
They moved in there because they felt like if we go in the SEC, then they'll respect us more, right? Because they felt like the committees weren't respecting the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the Pac-12 as much as they should. There was just
which they really weren't. Like they're not wrong.
But at the same time, the committee was justified every time because guess who kept running through everything? Alabama or Georgia. It was just those 2.
Yeah, but again, so to your point though, a lot of the NIL deals that are happening, talent has been spread out more. So you're seeing random schools be able to compete. Like we saw UCF a few years ago, Cincinnati a couple years ago, TCU this past year, right? So
okay, but like the first 2, not TCU because that were in during the NIL. The other 2 teams were not during the NIL.
Cincinnati was. Cincinnati was only 2 years ago with Malik Willis.
Oh yeah.
Pretty sure wasn't Cincinnati the first year?
No, Desmond Ridder was part of Cincinnati, and the NIL deals. I
thought that. Oh yeah, no, Malik Willis was Liberty. You're right. It was Desmond Ridder. My bad. You're right. You're right.
You have to check that. I don't fully know about that one, but what they built with was not during the NIL as much. Even if they were in the first year, a lot of those guys were already there. So it's just good recruiting and being in schools where some of the smaller guys, and I mean smaller as in like not the blue chip stock where they were 5-star recruits necessarily. A lot of those guys, for UCF, definitely was a team that they weren't a lot of 5-star guys, but they played like 5-star, and were coached well. So, anyways, but the problem I think here is that people are just like, oh, well, if we just get into the SEC, okay, well then the Big 12 and the Big 10 are like, crap, we got to go get some other teams to like boost our league, so they'll want to go with us during Selection Sunday. And the Pac-12's like, well, damn, we had like a bad decade at the wrong time, right? Like if this is 10 years ago, it's a different conversation. It's the Pac-12 adding because USC was in its prime and UCLA.
So is Oregon.
Oregon, right? Like when during the beginning of the playoff when all the teams from the Pac-12 were competing and getting into it. So I think it sucks if you're not the SEC right now. And the thing is, we see this all the time where like schools just go through the lulls in their program history. I mean, look at Notre Dame, right? Look at other times when Saban leaves.
Look at Georgia before the past couple of years. Georgia barely could compete.
Right, before
like, they
Kirby
were there.
Smart. Okay, what happens when Kirby Smart and Saban leave, right? So that's why I think this is so stupid because I think it's going to be harder to climb out of the depths of your league now when you get into that problem where you don't hire the right coach or you hire a coach who should get you what you need to be. Like, someone goes out there and hires a Harbaugh, but Harbaugh doesn't turn out right instead,
Well, but also keep in mind though, Austin, starting in 2024 is the expanded playoff. So, which is going to be
12, 8?
It's going to 12, which is going to be funny though because it's the 5 power conferences get an automatic bid, and then the 6th best conference other than the Power 5. So they're gonna have to reword that, right? Because unless the Pac-12 somehow can figure its shit out, are they still really going to be considered a Power 5? Like,
right. So you're gonna have to figure all that out. But in the end, let's say the SEC is now at what? I forget how many teams. They got a lot of teams.
The what? The SEC?
The Big 12 has like 18, doesn't it? And the Big 10 now has 16.
The Big 12 will have 14 this year, 16 next year, and then back to 14 because it's 2 years away for Oklahoma and because the new SEC deal doesn't start for 2 more years.
Okay,
so it's still a couple more. So the Big 12 really expands, then shrinks again. But yeah.
So it'll be 12, but still like. So maybe not as much for the big. No, I'm saying when it goes back to what it'll be for a while.
Oh yeah.
12. But the Big 10 is going to be 16 teams now.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
The SEC's got to be like what, 16?
14, 16, something like that. Yeah,
it's a big number. And you've got some of these other teams that are like trying to figure out what they're going to do, right? And a lot of these smaller conferences, the ones that compete in the top 25 every year, like
16 in the SEC,
right? Like let's say a BYU or a who's another one? So you got BYU, you've got somebody help me out with another team that's in one of those like Coastal Carolina, right? That's been up and down at times.
Tulane too.
Tulane. Well, that was this year, but usually they haven't been up good. But
they've been up and down the past couple years.
Which I don't remember where UCF ended up going to.
Big 12.
They did go. That's what I thought. Yep. Along with Cincinnati, right?
And Houston.
Right. So the point, ends up being when these other teams kind of start relocating into these areas, I think it makes it harder for these schools like in Alabama, honestly, if a coach goes wrong. Right now, they're always going to be at the top or have a chance to get back easy because they have the money to throw at it now for being so good for so long, and they had the prestige. But like in Arkansas or other teams like that want to compete there, if you have a bad season and you fire a coach and you can't get a guy for 5 years, good luck getting out of the bottom of that conference.
Look at Vanderbilt. What has Vanderbilt done in college football in the past, I don't know, 30 years? When has Vanderbilt ever been relevant in college football? Like, I don't know. The thing is, the reason Vanderbilt stays in the SEC is because they are a dominant baseball team. The Vanderbilt competes year in and year out for baseball. They're one of the top 10 college baseball teams in the country.
Right.
And so like that's one of the things that I also like and hate about this realignment as well is like now this is going to kind of totally shift the atmosphere of every other sport besides let alone football. Let's talk about college basketball for a second with this realignment. In the Big 10, you're now going to have Oregon, UCLA, and USC, which are perennially top teams in college basketball. You're now going to have them compete in the Big 10 every year. That's going to be insane. Talk about in the Big 12 too. You're going to have Arizona, Utah, Colorado compete in the Big 12 against Kansas.
You have that many more schools competing for one automatic bid.
Yes, exactly. So, the thing that I'm liking about that, Austin, is it's going to be great entertainment. It's going to be great entertainment value. So, like, as a fan watching this, I think that's good. That's going to be enjoyable to watch.
It's good for them. I'm saying for the school,
Yes.
I think it's stupid when they really start thinking about it. I think they're going to figure that out because, they're all thinking about football right now, obviously, because it makes the most money. But basketball, other things like that, things that also bring in some money, may have some struggles. But I honestly think for football, I think it's going to backfire on them because, schools like Oregon, those ones, they can recruit and they'll always be able to because they have like Oregon's up in that area, right? So they're going to be able to get the 5-star recruits from that area. UCLA has its area, USC as well. But as we've seen with like USC, right? They aren't performing as well as they have in the decade prior because they haven't recruited as well recently. And then their coaches haven't done as well. And then they just underperformed. They're still going to be good. They're still going to get coaches that want to, play for them because it's USC. But that's what I'm saying is if you put them in other conferences and now, even when they expanded 12 teams, okay, you now went from having 3, maybe 4 teams you got to compete with in the Pac-12 if you're USC. Like you got to compete with Oregon. Sometimes you got to compete with Arizona. Sometimes you got to compete with Arizona State,
Utah,
Washington. Sometimes Utah. But like none of those teams are there every year. Is what I'm saying. USC is expected to be there every year. UCLA, typically you're expecting them to be at the top, and Oregon.
In football,
But still, like UCLA does have a track record of being there. So
but
point is, if you're USC, right? I understand why it's harder for them, and they kind of wanted to get out because if you only have 3 teams, you have that the national media recognizes as being top tier. And you don't do well against them, it's harder, right? But if you're in the SEC or you're in the Big Ten, where 10 of the schools are considered top 25 teams, it makes it a little bit easier to stay relevant. So I understand it, but at the same time, I think could backfire.
You also have to think about the media deals that these teams are now agreeing to be a part of. Because now, as Steve also brought up, they're going to have a chance to be viewed by a lot more people because they're spread out all over the country. So, like, while you're saying like it's going to be harder for the teams to actually like make the playoff, yes, but will the school itself really care that much if they're like, that's the ultimate goal, but they're still going to be making their millions of dollars based on viewership alone,
right?
And
so I understand why,
not because they play in like a top. They always did play in the top conference, but like now that they're in a higher level conference, they're going to be able to get higher level recruits. See, now they can say we play against the best teams every single year. Don't you want to be a part of that? And now we're in California. Oh, we're in the Pacific Northwest, but you still get to play Ohio State. You still get to play Michigan. That seems like a pretty good sell to me, right?
There's a lot of things that can go back and forth about that, right? And we'll see. I think it doesn't affect necessarily some of the schools as much, and we'll see what happens. I think there's a few brands that like are kind of like unable to get stuck for too long, like a USC, I think at Oregon, I think in Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, those types of teams are kind of Texas are kind of what would you call it, like foolproof, like there's no way for them to kind of get stuck for that long now that they're prestige. But I think if you are some of the other teams that left and went in, you're gonna get. I think you have a chance of getting stuck.
You know who I think really loses out of these deals? It's not the teams joining the conferences; it's the losers in the conference already in here. Rutgers, Maryland, Nebraska, Vanderbilt. Those are the schools that I think are going to suffer because now. You guys are already at the bottom. You can't get any lower, but now you have more teams you have to fight through.
Right, that's what I'm saying with
like Rutgers is gonna struggle, or Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, South Carolina,
Texas A&M even.
Like the SEC, I think is a little bit different because the SEC I think fluctuates so much. Like in the years that I have been a Georgia Bulldogs fan, like I have seen teams fluctuate so much in the SEC. Everyone but Vanderbilt and Kentucky really have been at least a top tier team at some point. Like Kentucky's on the rise right now, but like everyone has really been on the rise and the fall with the exception of Alabama. Alabama's really never fallen. But like in the SEC, like there's been that fluctuality. In the Big Ten, when was the last time Minnesota was relevant in the Big Ten? Or Iowa?
Probably 5 years ago.
I don't know.
Iowa's a good
Not really. Yeah, but they never win, right? They're never.
No, what I'm saying is they're relevant where they're in the top 25 long enough and they're relevant, but they don't actually they don't challenge, right? But they're top. They're recognized.
So, but now this is also going to be an interesting part when you compare it to basketball now too, because there are other teams in the Big Ten that are somewhat good usually, like Iowa, Maryland, Michigan State, that now also have to compete with these other schools.
I don't think it actually affects basketball as much as I think it does football, because there's 12 games in football and there's 12 spots when they eventually expand.
Yeah,
that's a lot harder to get into. And again, if they're doing one automatic bid from each Power 5 conference or whatever they end up making it, if the Pac-12 dies, I think it makes it a lot harder.
There's still
whereas 64 teams before there was always, is your strength of schedule good enough, right?
March Madness will be interesting.
I don't think it affects March Madness that much,
but I think
it affects the actual conference.
I think it does though, because now you're having, because how many teams from each conference are they going to add from the bid? Like, are they really going to add 12 out of the 16 teams from the Big Ten? If they're all
depends on what's the strength of schedule, what's their record like. You know?
Yeah, but even if they all, because now you're basically essentially taking rid of one whole conference. Like, let's say for the sake of this conversation, the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal, they all leave. They all join the Mountain West, whatever. That conference, the Pac-12 is gone. That's now one less automatic bid that goes into it. So what are you going to do if you're these schools that now you're only fighting for one automatic spot? Is the only thing that's guaranteed is one spot. Yeah, you can have an awesome regular season or whatever, but I think that drastically affects these smaller schools in the conferences. I think it drastically affects like Maryland's chances of success, or not Michigan State really, but like Rutgers' chances of success. Like, what if the Big East just joins the ACC, for example? Now, how does this will drastically affect St. John's. This would affect Georgetown. This would affect Creighton, Marquette. Like,
I think, East?
Yeah, I said like if the Big East just merges with the ACC. Yeah. I say if the Big East just if the ACC just absorbs the Big East.
For some reason, I was thinking Big Ten and
no. I switched. So like I was just taking schools from the Big East and like saying like how, because now the ACC is, I would consider, one of the best conferences for college basketball, right? So now you take the Big East, which is also top 5 college basketball conference.
It's the Power 5.
Yeah. So now you have the smaller schools in the Big East. Like, I'm not worried if I'm in the Big East and this is happening. I'm not worried about, if I'm UConn, I'm not worried. If I'm Providence College, I'm not worried. If I'm Xavier, I'm not really worried. But like if I'm Seton Hall, I'm worried. If I have to compete against UNC and Duke, I'm worried.
I would say St. John's no, only because they have Rick Pitino right now.
Okay, yeah.
And they have the history of being that school. Georgetown, I think, never going to coach again. But here's what I'm saying. When it comes to basketball, it's a lot easier to win a basketball game with less talent, in my opinion, than it is to win a football game. Yes. The reason is I think in college basketball, we can see how much the scheming of the coach plays a part in getting those wins, right?
Yeah, but it's also the talent on the court that matters.
I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying it's like doesn't matter in college football either. The coaching. What I will say is, you look at like Georgia and TCU, right? Okay, they're in the national championship game. Now, maybe you could say that's an outlier because Georgia was just that good. But like, look at Alabama pretty much every year, right? They've got the coaching and they've got the best players that are just available. Like, it's just there's nothing you can do about it. But if you put that in basketball, a kid can get hot from 3-point range, can just go out and score and just tank a whole game for you in a March Madness tournament or anything else, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's why I'm saying I think you can kind of get more out of that than you can on a football field. Like, what's a guy going to do? Get hot as a running back and go score 6 touchdowns on his own? It's not going to happen. Like, that's not how it works. You can stop that. You can scheme that. You can't do that as much as you want to. If a guy is on fire that night from 3-point range, like Steph Curry could be, what are you going to do to stop him? There's nothing you can do. So that's all I'm saying is like I don't think it matters in basketball.
But I still think the conference alignment still
affects it for sure. But like you have 64 teams, right? 68 if you want to count the play-ins, and you have Oregon who they don't win theirs, they don't get that large bid, but they could very easily get in anyways in their own conference if they just had a decent enough record, right? So you put them in the other one. If they're just as good and they win just as many games, they're still getting in. And so all you did was take the teams that were likely going to get in anyways from the Pac-12, put them in the Big Ten when it comes to the March Madness tournament, and just say, okay, it makes sense. You're going to get in because you still play the same, you still played as good, and you're in a better conference. So we actually think you're better than you were.
I think we'll agree to disagree on this also.
We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Yeah. But
we still get another year before that happens.
Just based on the fact that there's 64 or 68 teams available, or 64 or 68 spots available, it doesn't affect college basketball as much when it comes to the national tournament. I think it affects it more in football because, well, you're only going to pick the 12 teams that probably have either no loss to maybe 3 losses depending on the year, but 1 or 2 losses, right? Mm-hmm. That's a lot harder to do with 12 games when everybody's a part of the same conference now than it is to say, okay, well, the last team in this conference is 19-11, but they played in one of the tougher conferences. They're likely getting it.
But they need to make the bowl game. They need to make the bowl games mean something. That's all something they need.
But how do you do that now? Especially if you're expanding, nobody's gonna care.
I think we'll see how the expanded playoff works, but I think they could make the bowl games essentially.
But right now, what they do is they make the bowl games part of the playoff, right? You have the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, which I've always thought was stupid anyways, because I think when they first started it, they never should have put the bowl games as part of that. You don't get to win both. If you go for the tournament, you don't get a bowl game. And the big games that always used to be a part of it were, the Rose Bowl and other things like that, which obviously usually took place with.
I think the bowl game should be the conference game championships. That's what I think they should be. So you're fighting for something.
Interesting. But at that point,
Pac-12 would be the Rose Bowl, right?
Well, you're already
Cotton Bowl would be
for your championship, though.
Yeah, but so you're giving it something though. Every year the SEC wants to be in the Cotton Bowl or Peach Bowl, whatever you want to call it from there. Every year the ACC wants to fight for, I don't know, the Pinstripe Bowl is still a thing, right? Every year the conference you want to fight for something, right? Give the bowl names a meaning to fighting for something.
Well, the thing is, I think bowl season's dead only for the fact that
I agree. But
bowl games were what you fought for before there was a real, only 2 people could actually compete for the national championship each year because that's all it was.
Right.
And so
which I hated that. I like more, but
I agree with you. I like a little bit more. I honestly am okay. I kind of wish they'd just gone to 8 and left it at 8. I don't think college football needs 12. That's my opinion, and I think it's stupid because now you got to get high and whatever.
We'll have to wait and see, but we've been on this conversation for almost a half hour now, so I think it's time we move on to the fun topic for today, which is we're going to be making a tier list of NFL head coaches. So I do want to preface this. This is going to be based on last year and last year only. So you cannot take into account Bill Belichick winning 6 Super Bowls into this ranking. You don't also, if they change teams, don't use their previous team's history and their record. You can only base it on last year alone. So for Doug Peterson, don't talk about the Eagles, or same thing with Andy Reid. Don't talk about the Eagles. Talk about last year and last year only. All right. Does that make sense, boys?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to go into it. So first up that we are talking about, I think this is a pretty obvious spot where to put him, is Jonathan Gannon from the Cardinals.
Hot shit.
Yeah, I'm going to put him into just hired because we don't know what he'll be.
I know.
Anyone disagree?
No, I think just hired. I think whenever we think about tiers and stuff, it's like rookie and just hired. It should be a tier and stuff.
I feel like he should be on the hot seat simply for he did. Did you guys see?
No.
High-fiving. Okay, he went up to who was the guy he went up to? It was one of his players who was a rookie or whatever. Anyways, he went up to him. I don't think it was Kyler or somebody else. And he went up to him and dude, I can't even describe how awkward it was. think of like. No, this is gonna be. It would sound wrong. So I'm not even gonna do it. But like, I have to find the clip and show you guys later. It is the most awkward, like white, American dad thing you could ever see. That's what it was. It's like I've never left the suburbs once, and it was so weird.
He was just hired, so that's where he's going, Austin. Until he sucks on the football field, which he eventually will, because the Cardinals roster is dog shit. He's staying in that team.
Training camp is abysmal to watch.
I feel so bad for Cardinals fans. They literally were on the top of the world 2 years ago.
Yeah, they were a contender potentially 2 years ago, and then that just all plummeted.
It's so funny. But anyway, next up is Arthur Smith.
And he's the
Falcons head coach. So there, mediocre.
I mean, that's
give him this year. He's gotta have this year.
Yeah,
I think
we'll see where he does. Like this year, he finally has like
some players that he can use. But even then, I mean, this division was, even with Tom Brady, was actually pretty open. So I would just say mediocre, because when you're one of the worst teams or the worst team in a bad division, you kind of are mediocre no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's got 1 year to really show it now. He's got some guys, so he's just got to show that he can do it.
He's got 1 year before he's on the hot seat. If he doesn't do it this year, then he's got on the hot seat going into the next year. Yeah, this is his
honestly,
chance.
he might be gone if he doesn't do it this year. But
well, I don't know. He doesn't really have a great quarterback, right? Like Desmond Ritter's okay, so like that you got to take that into account. Like we'll see what he does with the mediocre offense. If he can win that division, which I think they can, then we'll see. Next up is John Harbaugh. Based on last year, there.
Actually, I think he's still very good, considering they still made the playoffs despite all their injuries. They were one of the most injured teams last year, and they almost beat the Bengals if it weren't for a last-minute fumble touchdown. You know, like Lamar Jackson, or hell, just giving it to a running back in that situation, honestly, they could have won the game. So I really do think Harbaugh is still a very good coach. He has coached the Super Bowl winning team before.
But I don't know if I can make him insane. Like,
well, insane is better than mediocre, because he's not mediocre.
I guess this is just a bad list. Let's be real.
What'd you say? You said this is a bad list. Kyle. What? Do you need me to add a tier? What? Why would we add a tier?
Why would you have insane and mediocre next to?
I was gonna say there should be like a pretty good in between.
There should be just like a good. Just make it a good.
Well, like change mediocre or like add?
No. Just add one, and it's just good. Just make it good. That's it. He's good right now.
He's good.
I think that's
good try.
That's a lame, but whatever. Fine. Good God.
Well, you just know that like insane memory still like that's not that's like the elite tier, and then or the best would be the elite tier. But either way, that's you need a good.
Yeah,
fine. That's what the mediocre was supposed to be.
No,
mediocre means like, I can take you or leave you. Like you're nothing special. You're not like good. You're just like, you don't suck, but you're not good enough
to
like
make a difference. Anyway.
For some reason, this was going alphabetical based on team name, and then decided to not go alphabetical. So next up is Zach Taylor.
Good.
Yeah, he has to be in the good.
I was going up here.
I think
their team was really good last year. The Bengals
I think leave him there for now, Steve.
Insane of membrane. I will say, I mean, considering that they did, it was 3 point. They lost by a field goal against the Chiefs, that kind of stuff in the AFC Championship, and they had a good win against Kansas City in the regular season, and they dominated the Bills. So yeah, insane of membrane. They did have a really good season. You can always debate is it more the quarterback or whatnot, but quarterback and utilizing his 3 dominant wide receivers, I think is also good. I'll give him that.
All right. Next up, we got Sean McDermott. Hot take. He's going there.
I don't think yet, because Josh Allen is taking more of the heat. You have to remember I think he's good because he's a defensive coach, and the Bills typically have a top 10 defense every year. And he did help and get Josh Allen some weapons or a weapon, but also Dawson Knox is also very serviceable too, and Gabe Davis. I think he's good because the Bills had success last year. And I think a lot of their issues were more on Josh Allen only because he had the most giveaways. He's a turnover machine. So I actually think.
Here's the thing, though, Steve. Yeah, but if he can't help lead Josh Allen to what Josh Allen was 2 years ago, then isn't the problem now on the coach?
No, it can still definitely be the quarterback, too. The thing is, in the actual play itself, it's Josh Allen gives away the ball the most. So he's the cause of a lot of these turnovers.
Yeah,
So I think,
fun fact, Josh Allen had more turnovers than Daniel Jones.
yes, he did. He did. That's why it's embarrassing because Daniel Jones sucks. No, I'm just kidding. But realistically, though, I like him in good. I can see mediocre, but good because he still had a 13-3 season last year. So it's just I think Josh Allen definitely deserves some blame for the turnover issues, but they still were a team that struggled in close games or would just knock out punch people, and they won 13 games for a reason. So
yeah, you can't put him just in this. You can't put him in insane in the membrane. I don't think. Yes, they had 13-3, but they didn't do anything in the playoffs. And to your point, Kyle, like you look at the other defensive coaches around the league, like a Pete Carroll or obviously a Bill. They're not good at coaching the quarterback, right? Otherwise, Mac Jones wouldn't have been as bad last year. So if you have a defensive coach, you have to look at their defense. Were they good? Okay, they were good. How was the record overall? Oh, 13-3. Yep. All right. He's not on the hot seat yet. Now, let's say this year and next year they went under 500. You might start seeing him, and Josh Allen was regressing. Then I don't think.
Well, I think Josh Allen was regressing last year.
No, he was, but I'm saying, they've got to go out and get him a good. Either Josh Allen has to show that he can out a good coach, or they have to go find one or the other.
Or maybe get him some help in the offensive line too. But still, I think he's still a good coach.
All right, next up, even though we already know who he is, he was just hired. So Frank Wright, you're going in just hired for right now. Even though we already know you are a pretty decent head coach at the moment.
He is very underrated for sure.
At the moment, yeah, we'll
just
we'll give it to you. Yeah. Next up, we got Matt Eberflus. Yeah.
He is whose team's coach?
The Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hot seat. Very much hot seat because this season better go well.
Yeah, if they don't have a significant upgrade, then he's gone. Like, this is your chance.
They honestly need to be close to a winning team, about 500.
They have to be making a play for the playoffs. That's all they have to do.
Because they spent similar amount of money as the Patriots, and we were a playoff team. So they have a lot of expectations. Or the Jaguars before spent a lot of money for agency, and they made it to the playoffs, the divisional round of all things. So, I mean, they spent a lot of money this offseason, got a lot of key pieces, and traded their first round pick away. So, yeah, he's on the hot seat for the season for sure.
Next up is Kevin Stefanski, and
hot seat.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson better do well for his own job because he was terrible with Baker. Last year was a disappointment. Come on, you have Nick Chubb, that offensive line, Deshaun Watson. You still have Elijah Moore that you just traded for. You got Amari Cooper, who you traded nothing for, and he is an incredible receiver. He's so very good route runner. And you have really good on defense. Yeah, you better do good this season.
Yeah, the Browns have no leeway for failure here. Absolutely none. So it will definitely be interesting.
It's going to be a rough year for the Browns fans, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to all come down to Deshaun Watson and what he can do.
He needs to be Houston Deshaun.
He does need to be Houston Deshaun. Next up is Mike McCarthy, and yep, right there he goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Nah, Steve, this is enough for debate. No, this is enough for debate,
Okay.
Steve. You've gone.
That's
I'm sorry.
They
I'm
went
sorry,
to the
bud.
playoffs last year. That's the thing, and they have a really good defense. And Dak Prescott did cause a lot of turnovers. I think he's better than people give him credit for, but he's still, I would say, mediocre.
I would
mediocre.
say he needs to be on the hot seat. I don't know if he actually is on the hot seat for Dallas, but I think
Jerry's all talk too, so who knows?
I think he needs
like
to be
him as
on the hot
mediocre.
seat, though. I'll give it to you,
Should be.
Steve. I'll give it to you, Steve, that he's mediocre last year because he did make the playoffs and he led him to he led him to a championship. What, 2 years ago?
No, they haven't won the championship in a while. It's
Was
mostly divisional flops, but you know.
Yeah, that's fair. But
Hey, they blew out Tom Brady and the Bucks, so you gotta give him a little bit of credit for that.
No. No credit there. Sean Payton, this will be interesting to place him in the just hired, but technically it's where he goes.
Realistically, he's insane on the memory because he's a fantastic offensive coach, but his tier's here, so just hired. I get it.
Yeah, we don't know what he'll be on the Broncos, right? Like he could be kind of trash without Drew Brees. Like we don't know.
Yeah,
I doubt it, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
Coached a 5-0 team with Teddy Bridgewater, so who knows? But all right.
Dan Campbell. This may be a hot take, but yeah.
No. At least good. At least good.
I don't see the hype. I don't see the hype, man. I don't get it.
This was a team that was at one point, it was like 0-10. Then they went on and beat some of the top teams in the league. I really think Campbell deserves a lot of credit because they don't have that many pieces, and they were still a above 500 team, and were able to dominate against very.
They weren't above 500 last year.
They were 9-8.
Thought they were 7-10 last year.
No, they were 9-8. They beat the Packers. Oh, we lost Austin.
Did we just lose Austin? Hold on.
Well,
let me
beat the Packers and actually kind of embarrassed them. So I think Campbell
Austin,
deserves good. He deserves good.
Hold on. Let me double check this. All right, fine. I'll give it to you. They were 9-8. All right, fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
At least
you're wrong.
I can settle for good.
Next up on the list, we got Matt LaFleur. Okay.
After last year, mediocre for last year's only.
Yeah, since we're doing even before that, like
they were 13-3 the year before.
That was all Aaron Rodgers. That wasn't him.
It doesn't matter. You still have to do it if you're going
it
like that.
It does matter. What do you mean it doesn't matter?
No, because you can't just say it's him.
No,
regardless, we're going off of last year anyway.
Because Kyle, if it was just Aaron Rodgers, they would have been 13-3 last year.
Oh, fair enough. But but they also didn't have they didn't have they didn't have Devontae last year.
So it wasn't just Aaron Rodgers.
All right, fuck off, Aaron. Fuck off, Austin. Yes.
So you're saying that they're going to be 13-3 then? Is it just Aaron Rodgers?
God, I hope not. Anyway, moving on. DeMeco Ryans. I don't know why he was moved all the way down there, but yeah, just hired. Doug Peterson.
I'm close to staying insane on the memory, but I'm gonna give him good. I mean, he deserves good.
I'm gonna give him insane on the memory.
I think what pushes it is the 27-point comeback against Justin Herbert.
No, it's the fact that he took the Jaguars to the playoffs and then to the divisional round. For me,
yeah, and they also beat like Dallas. They were competitive against the Chiefs for some time. I think, and he's a Super Bowl winning coach. I think I'd say on the membrane, but I can see why good as well.
Yeah, no, he's definitely insane in the membrane. He led a team that we all didn't think was quite there yet last year. We didn't think the Jaguars were quite going to be what they were, so he definitely goes insane in the membrane. I don't know who Shane Steichen is, so I think it's this guy. I think that's him for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep. Yeah.
Looking at all the other logos, and I recognize who everyone else is, so that's my guess. All right, well, Andy Reid. This is obvious.
There's no debate.
They won.
This man is insane.
Joe Staley's on the hot seat.
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Mediocre.
I almost had a tier below hot seat that just for Brandon Staley that was going to be called Brandon Staley should be fired.
I would be okay with that.
Let's
I know Nick would agree with that for sure.
Add below. Yep. And okay. Oh wait, wrong.
Yeah, hot pink.
Hold on. Hot pink will be for this one. Yeah. Okay. Hot pink and Staley should be fired.
I do an angry face. Angry face.
Angry face. Okay. Why am I doing an angry face?
That's a sad face.
Whatever. It's close enough. It works.
Yeah, but then you're saying that we don't want him to be fired.
No. Oh my God. What's the thing for an angry face then? Is it the
squiggly line?
The squiggly line.
No, it's like the less than. It's like greater than, or it's greater than.
Greater than?
Yeah.
I haven't done this kind of thing since.
Kyle, it's the thing next to the letter N.
Then you do the eyes. No, you do that, the eyes, and then that.
What?
No, you do
Never
the
mind,
greater
don't worry
than.
about it. This is dumb.
Okay, never mind. Okay,
I am not in my middle school texting lingo apparently. But it's fine. Sean McVay.
Mediocre.
You live with a teacher, Kyle.
No, mediocre for sure.
Mediocre. I know he's super good, but they were a terrible team last year, and they lost they don't have a first round pick, so they didn't have one. So I got to give it to mediocre only because they did so terrible last year.
Yeah, they did pretty bad, huh?
I think you should put this is take out the Staley should be fired and just put should be fired because the next one should be there too. He never should have gotten another job, to be honest.
No, he definitely shouldn't have.
Mike McDaniel, this is not up for debate. No.
Yeah.
No. He led a team without Tua and still somehow made them to the playoffs, Austin. No. There's no debate.
No. Top offense with 3 starting quarterbacks. Yeah, Mike McDaniel.
No. And Austin, his interviews
I want to see what he does. His interviews are awesome. You gotta see what he actually does. Like if Tua never comes back. Like that's what I want. But
this is we're talking about last year, right?
I know.
Insane the membrane. He was insane. Literally was amazing. Bill Belichick, hot take.
Good.
Hot take.
Here's the thing.
Even more hot take.
I would have put it at mediocre still.
You gotta put him in at least good because they still coached an incredible defense. It's just
I'm okay with mediocre because he did put his offense in the worst possible situation he possibly could.
Yeah.
So for that alone, he has to be mediocre.
Mediocre is definitely not that hot of a take. I love Bill Belichick. I think he's a fantastic coach, but he is not the coach for this NFL today.
But don't get me wrong. If this is all time, he's up here. But
yes.
No, it's
after last season.
For last season, he's there. The year before that, he would have been good, and I think this year you're going to see him in insane the membrane. To be honest, so.
Oh, hot take. Hot take.
It's not that hot.
It's pretty hot. Next up is Dennis Allen. Yeah, maybe.
He's for what team?
The Saints. He's kind of tricky one, to be honest.
I actually think mediocre.
That's first year last year, right?
Yeah.
I'd say mediocre. He needs at least more than 1 year. And he's following up Sean McVay. Yeah.
And quarterback room wasn't great. Derek Carr is actually an upgrade, honestly. So I think, realistically, I think mediocre is fine for him.
All right, fair enough. This one's not up for debate either.
I think it's fine.
I'll be honest.
I think
looks like
he's
a
on the hot
$40 million
seat.
quarterback. That's great.
I think he's in the hot seat.
He took a team that should have gone 3-13 or 3-14 last year, Austin, to the playoffs. Listen, stop it.
I know where he is.
No receiving core and only a good defense and a really good running back, but he took it to the playoffs.
He belongs wherever you end up putting Belichick, honestly, but that's fine.
No, he's better. No.
I'm not saying last season. Yes, he belongs above Belichick, but you were like, "Oh, he should be in the hot seat." So I'm like, if you're putting Belichick there, you're putting David.
Oh, I was joking. Like I'm not. I'm not actually putting Bill Belichick in the hot seat. But just going on last year alone, like Dave for Bill. Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think it's starting to because he's just not. It's not the NFL that it's not his NFL anymore for Bill.
Kraft did have a meeting with him this offseason too.
He just needs to stop. Yeah. He needs to stop doing the drafting for the offense. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he is still fine for the NFL. Look at his defense.
It shouldn't be our general manager anymore. Nope.
Yeah, that too. In regards to Dable, though, he took an absolutely atrocious offense and did wonders with it last year. Like,
oh yeah, no, he should be there.
Even if you just focus on Daniel Jones alone, Daniel Jones had a significant upgrade last year.
Is that Salah?
Yes, next one's Salah.
Hot seat.
Oh, really?
I'm saying hot seat only for the fact that they don't do anything this year. Well, okay, I forgot. I can't do it for this year, but
next year, last year was
mediocre. Yeah, mediocre.
Yeah, like I thought he did a decent job with Zach Wilson last year. I agree, like he should be there, but like with Zach Wilson, he had three quarterbacks last year, right? He fought with. He had Zach Wilson, Mike White, and guy whose name obviously isn't
important. To put him in good just because of the shit he had to deal with, and they were still 7-9 and had chances to actually make it to the playoffs. There was a split second that they could have.
Yeah, they have a potential, but I don't know about.
We'll leave them in mediocre.
Yeah, I don't know yet.
No.
I hate doing this. This hurts my soul, but
no,
it's gotta be there.
He made the Super Bowl. He made the Super Bowl, Steve.
He made the Super Bowl, but this team made no adjustments in the second half on defense and got torched. I think
doesn't
matter. He made it there.
I don't think he's the best. He's not up there with the best. He is insane in the membrane at best, for sure.
Nah, they're the only two.
I think you have to have the two head coaches that made the Super Bowl. I think you have to.
No.
Justin, what are your thoughts? Steve, you're already outvoted, but we have to get Justin to weigh in here just to see. Justin, what are your thoughts?
I can understand why we would put the two best for that time. I need to look up what the Eagles' record was as well.
It was 14-3.
14-3?
Yeah, they were the number one seed.
I can agree with Kyle and Austin because I do remember like us always talking about how dominating the Eagles were for the NFC.
Got him. Sorry, Steve, you're outvoted. Sorry, Steve.
I disagree with this. I want this on the record. I disagree with this.
So you're going to judge the entire season for them on one half?
Yeah, come on.
No. You have to look at their schedule as well, who they played.
That's decent.
They had a mediocre. I'm not saying that he's not bad. I'm saying insane in the memory, but he's not the best coach.
Hold on.
Though.
Wait a second here. I'm pretty sure they had a pretty decent schedule last year.
It was fairly easy, but they also ran through the playoffs until the Chiefs. And well, actually, they ran through the Chiefs for a half. So
well, they ran through, but also the 49ers lost their quarterback. They were playing wildcat the entire game.
Fair enough.
I give them credit for that because Brock Purdy literally couldn't throw the ball because he was in so much pain.
Well, yeah, he literally had a torn UCL and he was throwing the ball.
Somehow tried.
But yes, I would say you're right about that. That we don't know what would have happened if Brock Purdy's not injured in that game. But they still were competing with the 49ers before that happened, which was very early, but still. So, yeah, I mean,
all right.
You can't just
I get it. Like, I do.
Good.
Move Tomlin to good.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin good. Yeah.
For last year, really?
Yeah.
Well, did they make the playoffs last year?
No,
they were. I think 8-9 though.
Mediocre. No, they had a winning season.
They were 9-8 or
yeah.
I think that's good considering their top defender was injured and they had a rookie Kenny Pickett, not that great of a rookie starting, and they had a winning record. Mike Tomlin
mediocre. You can't put no. You can't put Mike McCarthy at mediocre and what's his name above him because the other one went to the playoffs.
Yeah. I agree there. I'm like Mike Tomlin to me is very similar with Bill Belichick. A great head coach, just not for this NFL right now.
Not this last season. Yeah. Okay.
That's like if you're looking at the other people in, like I don't agree that Dan Campbell should even be in this category. But if you're including him in good, if you're including the others that are in good, like I don't think Mike Tomlin fits that role. Especially if we're leaving out Mike McCarthy, who, as Austin said, did make the playoffs. Like
right.
Yeah.
We're kind of giving, honestly, with Dan Campbell, we're giving him he's done better with the Lions, but honestly, he wasn't good or bad, but with the other coach we put there, he honestly should be mediocre, to be fair. But
I will propose an amendment at the end of this, but we'll continue on. But I have an amendment.
All right, sounds good. We'll deal with the amendment after. Pete Carroll.
Same amendment.
Well, actually, yeah, and same with what he had last year. Honestly, same with membrane's fine.
I could be okay with that. That makes sense.
It's just projected record. There were people saying they weren't going to win a football game last year.
And
he did make Geno Smith look good enough to get a contract extension.
And they played against the 49ers too. They didn't roll over.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
They were never really in that game fully, but yeah.
Fair enough.
They didn't even let it halftime after a big.
You're right. They did lead at halftime. Now that I remember, yeah, you're right. They were up on them. We thought they were going to beat them.
All right, put Todd Bowles. It should be.
Oh. Okay, so hot seat and should be fired are the same thing here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
These are the same things.
Hot seat is they have one chance this season. Should be fired is they shouldn't be a coach to begin with.
All right, fine.
Or they shouldn't be coaching right now. They were fine to be the coach when they started, but now they shouldn't even be. They should have been fired already.
No, really, I think Brian Daboll is better as a defensive coordinator. I think not as a head coach. Last year was abysmal for the Bucs, considering the talent that they had. They should have been a lot better than they were,
and somehow made the playoffs.
But yeah, they did with a losing record because they won one game against the Panthers.
Yeah, somehow. Very interesting though.
So I think seats fair.
Mike Vrabel, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, mediocre for last year.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs. We know he's a good coach, but last year just wasn't their year.
Yeah, no. For some reason, Kyle Shanahan is this far low. Kyle Shanahan.
He's insane in the membrane.
Yep. Insane in the membrane. I actually would even argue the best, considering they had a rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, who was in the 6th or 7th round, and they made
the last pick of the draft.
The last pick of the draft.
I'm okay with him going in the best. That was a good.
I think
season.
he's definitely the best
because they were one game behind the Eagles for the top seed. So
1 or 2, yeah.
No, they were 1. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure they were 1. Yeah,
13-4, I think. So
yeah. So yeah, it's the best. I mean, Brock Purdy, last pick of the draft, and also, I mean, it's just an insane roster, and that offense is when it's run by Kyle Shanahan, it's great. So yeah, I gotta give him that.
Ron Rivera.
Hot seat.
Yeah, I agree. It's time.
Hot seat because he is he's brought teams to the playoffs in the Super Bowl before, and the team was not great last year. So I'll give him hot seat.
Also, he can't stop using cancer as an excuse. No, I'm just kidding. He probably never used that.
Oh, welcome to the last episode, guys.
And last one's Kevin O'Connell.
Was he for
the Vikings?
No. He only had
not after last year.
It was his first year.
Not after last year. Yeah, it was
good because they were absolutely great in the regular season because they actually went from losing close games to winning close games. But that playoff was, oh my god!
Okay. That was his first year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so he's got to be in the good. You could even say, I'd be okay if you wanted to argue insane memory, considering it was his first year and they were 13-4. So
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that too. I agree. Actually,
you took a team that couldn't win a close game to winning close games almost in the dominant, I think almost undefeated.
And somehow winning that game against the Bills, what?
Yeah, I mean, with Kirk Cousins too, who can definitely be great, but also be your heel. Also, we can't forget the fucking 33-point comeback against the Colts too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's stupid.
That happened
actually, and Sam the Membrane is actually really fair for him, so I'll give him that.
Yes, fair enough. That's also a quarterback that has choked many times.
True.
I mean, yes.
Yes, but I was still very impressed by that game too.
Is still fucking 33 points. That is a lot.
That actually makes him better if his quarterback does choke and they go 13-4.
No. Anyway, I think that's a pretty decent list, to be honest.
Yep.
I like it.
My proposed amendment.
Yes.
One thing we did forget: when Dak Prescott was injured, the Cowboys went 5-1 with Cooper Rush and played a very competitive game against the Eagles, and actually were in position to win. I actually think
Fine.
McCarthy
Yeah,
can be
I think that
set
makes
to
sense.
good, so that
Ahead
Mike
of
Tomlin can be moved up to good.
no,
No.
No.
Sorry, you're still outvoted for Mike Tomlin.
but you do have to move the Lions Dan Campbell down. Not like down, but like behind McCarthy.
Yeah, because McCarthy'd have a better record. Yeah.
If that's the case, then I'll do this.
You gotta give it to Pete Carroll.
I mean, it was his first year, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll give him that. I even wager above Doug Peterson because the Jaguars were really rough at the beginning. Right
They
there, it's
choked
fine.
the
Right there.
playoffs.
Anyone else I'm moving? We good?
I think Belichick's in the best.
Stop it. All right, that's it. Fine, we're done with that. All right. Does anyone else have anything they would like to do? Oh, I do have one. I do have a fun question to end it. But before I do the fun question, it's not trivia. Before I do the fun question, does anyone have anything else they want to discuss?
Football is coming back in less than a month, guys.
Woo!
I'm so excited. Finally.
Can't wait. Woo!
Finally, an amazing thing I can watch and piss off my fiance. All right.
All right. So if you guys could take your favorite player that is not currently on your favorite team, who would you take and why?
They have to be current,
so a player who isn't a Patriot.
No, who is not a Patriot. Yep. So any current they have to be currently playing. So you can't like make Tom Brady come out of retirement. So just getting that out of the way, they have to be currently playing.
I did ask.
I could see Justin and Austin's wheels turning.
I was gonna say.
I think he is considered hurt at the moment, but that's fair. I'll allow it because he's still playing. So like Cooper Kupp, that's a fair one.
I was gonna say Derek Jeter, by the way, but that's okay.
Okay, that's fair. But
it
could be any sport. It can be any sport, by the way. It doesn't have to just be
someone who I would add to the Patriots.
Yes, who you would add? Who you would add to your favorite team? And your favorite player that's not currently on your favorite team.
Oh, I have mine.
All right, ahead, Steve. Go for it.
All right. I mean, this is a simple answer. Of course, Patrick Mahomes. The dude's insane. I would love him on our team because he's a coach of his own, and I think as a guy himself, considering this, his wife who is.
You want his wife and his brother wearing Patriots gear, dancing on the sideline, dumping beer on Patriots fans.
Would make sure they're not allowed at the stadium.
I don't know.
I have respect for Patrick Mahomes because of his wife going off after everybody during the playoffs, but also with Jackson Mahomes.
Nah, if we were talking football for me, it would be cold as ice Joe Burrow. But I was gonna go with Shohei.
That is totally fair.
Give me the best player to be on the best organization in baseball.
Shohei and pinstripes would make sense. For me, as a Rangers fan, I would 100% have Connor McDavid in a Rangers uniform. The best player in the NHL, 100%.
I would be a running back. He would kill it.
Okay,
wait. Rangers? Yeah, sure. Yes.
So for the most of us, all picked like the best player because there's just like obviously if you're gonna pick somebody, you're gonna pick the best player. But I want us all to pick our most favorite to watch, like the most fun person to watch that we were just like, dang, this guy's like a highlight reel or something like that.
Okay. Let's all narrow it down. Let's all narrow it down to one sport though. So
okay.
You want to just do football? Our favorite favorite NFL player that's not on our favorite team. Who we would add?
Right, but the most fun, not our favorite. But
yeah, okay.
Like, but like the one that's the most fun.
Okay.
All right, Kyle.
I could be with Steve.
Start?
Sure.
Justin Jefferson. Absolutely. Okay. Just Daniel Jones throwing bombs to Justin Jefferson, who can catch almost anything. I would pay. Absolutely love that. Justin.
I haven't watched Justin Jefferson as much. I know he is super good. I would be with Steve with Patrick Mahomes on that, just because I have seen more of his plays.
You didn't say that first, so that's fine with me. If you're saying that's your most fun to watch, okay.
Steve.
I honestly, I'm going with the Chiefs, but I think I just love a really good tight end, and this is one tight end that can make any rest of your receiving core fantastic. I got to give it to Travis Kelce because he's just a lot of fun as a player too. Like as a person, his podcast is fantastic with his brother. But
it is really funny.
Also,
that is really funny.
I don't even know how, but I just see this dude who'll just kind of run in the middle and he just won't get covered. I don't know how. He's like one of the few players that nobody just covers him, and it's great.
All right, Austin.
Well, I would love to see what Belichick and now especially Bill O'Brien would do with somebody like this. So give me Tyreek Hill.
Yo, that would.
I'd love to see Mac with him.
Cheetah.
Yep,
that would be interesting.
Catch. We'd be great.
I love how none of us pick a defensive player either.
No, because we don't need it.
Well, it's not the most fun to watch anymore because they can't do anything anyways.
That's fair.
Michael Parsons would be a good option.
Michael Parsons is fun to watch, but like.
But Belichick would have a field day with Michael Parsons.
He would.
I would love Sauce Gardner though.
Yeah,
I would love Sauce Gardner.
I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be Sauce Gardner this year, so I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have good corners. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's your team's fault. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Bradbury. Oh no, he's on the Eagles. Oh.
He wasn't even that good. Stop it.
He is now.
There was a reason we cut him.
Yeah, and then no, never mind. Wait, who was the Super Bowl?
Yeah, he had an interception against us in the division game.
I can't believe the Dolphins signed Eli Apple.
Yeah.
Also, what do you think of Apple?
Other quarters on the market. That's all we can really do.
I just love it.
I love Eli Apple. Eli Apple gets a lot of hate, but I love Eli Apple
because he sucks.
I kind of want him to come back. He doesn't suck that bad.
He sucks.
He's either a very solid corner or he's just gonna get burnt. Like there are games he gets burnt bad.
He's mediocre, Austin, but he's not. He doesn't suck. Like he's mediocre.
He'll give you 10 really good games, but then he'll get burnt.
He needed one time to give a pass defense, and they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
he sucks.
If
you're a Bengals fan, you don't like him, and I don't either. He's an idiot. Anyway, so I just love Mike McDaniel's response to that though in the press conference. What do you think of App? Like the phone?
Did you see?
Oh, Eli Apple.
Did you see Mike McDaniel's response to depth charts?
No,
I didn't see that one.
So Mike, it was asking him, how do you like your depth chart? He's like, I hate them. I have to remember each player on my roster and make sure they're listed on the depth chart. I was like, sometimes I don't even put them in the right order. Like for fun, I did my test depth chart and I put Tyreek Hill last in the depth chart.
What's funny is he's the kind of coach where it's like, oh, dude, it's so much work. Being a coach is really tough, but like, I'll do it. I mean, I have to.
He's such a bro. I love Mike McDaniel. He's so funny.
I'm excited for more of Mike McDaniel this season for sure.
I agree. Like he actually makes the Dolphins fun to watch, and I'm not usually a Dolphins fan. I know I'm not usually a Dolphins fan, but he makes them fun to watch.
I'm going to be in Jacksonville territory, so that's fine with me.
Yeah, you being in Jacksonville is going to be weird. I keep sending you Florida memes. It makes it fun. But anyway,
as long as you're not the Florida man.
We're still recording, so I think it's time that we wrap this up here. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like and follow us on all of our socials, including X, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter X. I think Elon Musk will jump through the camera and strangle me if I actually call it Twitter X. So follow us on Just X if you wish.
Do we actually have a Threads?
Elon, you're
we do have a Threads. Oh. We do have a Threads. I don't think we use it, but we have one. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a great rest of your night. Peace.
Be kind to someone.